Captain at Club, Rachel Malcolm, bagpipes. And Scotland and Loughborough, second row, Emma Wassell.
There's a bit of sourdough that is lodged into my throat, and they're like, oh, it's a tumour. What's your next of kin? And Rhona's like, I'm her next of kin.
There is nothing harder in that moment, like seeing your best friend in that state.
What do you mean, chill out? I'm a rugby player. I'm an athlete. That's my job.
That first game you played, I'm really like,
Yeah.
walk out the way,
Mine.
don't touch her.
You told us about Scazzy's leather trousers.
It's perfect fit.
Loughborough Trail Finders, let's go.
Let's go.
The big farewell for Rachel Malcolm.
Not about me. No. She always does rousing talks.
Would you use that word? Rousing? Oh, sorry. I thought you said
thought
something
it
else.
said something else.
Sorry, misheard.
Welcome back to The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby, brought to you by our good friends from Vodafone. Our Mo has secured herself a home semi-final. Scazzy is in a final of her own, sort of, this Friday. A direct matchup for 6th place, the mini league.
Big 6th v 7th.
Whoa.
Come on, the mini league. Mini league's not really taking shape this year, but if we win, we'll still claim it. Yeah, why not?
We'll still claim it. Yeah. So to look ahead to all of this very serious business happening on all kinds of parts of the table, she's brought a couple of teammates with her, both of whom we know and love dearly. Captain at Club, and some say country too, Rachel Malcolm is in the house. No, bagpipes.
Oh.
And Scotland and Loughborough, second row.
Do I need to go higher? Do I need to go higher with that?
What was
For
that?
the bagpipes.
Or like the noise that comes
Yeah.
out? Initially, yeah, like that first
Okay,
squeak is quite squeaky.
Introduce the next one. I'll give it another go.
Okay. Scotland
I
and
didn't want to give your
Loughborough
name away
Lightning.
too soon. Yeah, go on.
Second row, missed by her teammates in both camps this season after she thought it was a piece of sourdough in her throat, but it was a tumour. And it means she has been on a rehab journey like no one has ever seen before in the last 6 months. Emma Wassell.
Thank you. Thank
Better?
you. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Special effects will be required.
Still working on it. I don't normally do sounds. It threw me a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, you gave it a good go
Yeah,
repeatedly.
We try.
We're not going to keep doing that though. You've had such an absolutely incredibly tough year. World Cup year. All of the pressure is really on everybody. Months after your mom passes away, you were playing in the Six Nations last year, and your team refers to you as Layak. Is that right? Layak.
Laoch.
So I can say the.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
Yeah.
you go full South African on that.
Give it. Yeah.
So Shara wrote it Layak, but I'm going to through it. Scottish and Gaelic word that means hero or warrior. Is that what it's going to say on the back of your shirt now? Like the Vodafone at the top and then the number and then Layak.
Look, I'll just be happy to have Wassell back on the back of my shirt. I really will.
Recently turned 30. Happy birthday.
Oh, I was so ready for my 30s. Like, since I've turned 30, it was a big, obviously 2024 was easily the worst year of my life, but I turned 30 on the 28th of December, so we're right at the end of the year. So we're starting a new year. I'm turning 30. It was just a real fresh page, fresh start for me. And it's been good so far.
New Dawn. I can 10 out of 10 recommend them. I
Yeah.
think
I concur.
30s are your new 20s for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
I love that for you. Now, talk to us about the tumour. The way that you announced it on Instagram hit me like completely out of the blue, because I remember so clearly reading your post and thinking, is this, like, this can't be real. Like, she did what? So you said the same day you did your last running session of pre-season back. Wow, I'm really battling with the English today. You took yourself to A&E with pain that you thought was a sourdough piece of bread stuck in your throat. Unfortunately, that evening I was told I had a tumour in my chest. 5 CT scans, 2 X-rays, 1 MRI, 1 needle biopsy, 1 surgical biopsy, 6 kilograms lost and 13 days in hospital to be released just in time to watch the girls get a big win at home. And then you said you'll get surgery to remove the tumour and you'll be doing everything you can to return in 2025.
She doesn't like the drama. Like, she likes to just keep it low key, like not really like go too big on the announcements.
One more scan, just one more scan.
It's such a good thing that captions don't have a word limit on them, because there was a lot in there. But now, how often do you get sourdough stuck in your throat?
Honestly, so I just
This girl does love a bread.
I know, and I had to be specific about the sourdough because that morning I was in a rush. Naturally, I was running late, so I had cut the bread but didn't toast it, and I don't like it. It wasn't fresh sourdough. It was like 2 days, so you need to toast that, or it's tough. So I'm like chewing away, like I should have toasted that or something. Because I was just getting it in, and anyway, but I forgot about that moment. I obviously went to training and was just training as normal, really. It was just a run session. It was nothing too hectic. Were you there?
I was in Glasgow.
Yeah. It was a top-up session. It wasn't even a full squad session. And yeah, I finished the session. I was like, oh, neck's a wee bit sore. And then went back kind of to the gym, was meant to do a training session, and then said to the physio, I was like, my neck, throat, I couldn't really put a finger on it. I was like, I think it's my throat, but it's kind of my neck. Anyway, my physio starts giving me like essentially like soft tissue, like digging into my neck, and I was like, I just don't think that's it. I don't know. And I think she's pretty good at telling when something is wrong, like as in, I am easily the most dramatic person about really little things. But when things are serious, I would like to say I tone down the drama.
You will play, like, in all fairness, like Wass has played through more things than anyone I know, probably. Like the first couple of years I knew her, you had barely a shoulder attached, and she was playing every minute for Scotland and like throwing herself around. And
but when she cuts her finger on the bit of paper, you know about it.
Oh my gosh, you know. So
she spends all the drama there on the, on the peripheral things.
But talking about or complaining about anything serious in her life doesn't happen. So yeah.
So I think she got the gist. She was like, you seem worried. Anyway, there was nothing. Like, my heart rate was good. Everything about me seemed healthy. They couldn't put a finger on it. So I went home and they said, kind of, take a few hours, chill out, have some painkillers. And I was happy with that because I was like, there was nothing, I didn't have a clue what was wrong with me. And then later on, I'd spoke to the doctor and she was like, talk me through your whole day. I obviously mentioned about the morning I had with sourdough before training. She was like, and she just went, do you think something could be stuck in your throat? And because I was so confused about how this all came on, it didn't feel like a cold. I didn't know. And I was like, you know what? I think that could be it. I think there's a bit of sourdough that is lodged into my throat.
It was old. I didn't toast it.
No,
sounds like a dog ate my homework.
No, and then it almost felt like a relief because I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. Like, because I was panicking because I was like, this pain has come out of nowhere. And she was like, have some fizzy juice to unlodge it because that can sometimes work. If you've got a bit of food stuck in your throat, if you have fizzy juice, it can move it, hopefully. So I go to the shop, 4 cans of fizzy juice, and I am just seeing them off. Like
a Coke or something?
Oh, there was a Coke,
fizzy juice
there was an
is?
Iron Brew.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Classic. Got to be an Iron Brew in there.
It has to be. There was a wee apple ties in there. And after, I was like, I've just got an incredibly sore stomach. And my throat is still sore. And then I was like, oh, and she was like, you might need to go to A&E because they can like remove it. And in my head, I wasn't stressed. I didn't tell anyone. I was kind of like, fuck this, I'm going. Like, as in, I just got in the car, didn't tell anyone, and went to A&E. Go to A&E, and I go in, and I'm like, I think I've got something stuck in my throat. And they're like, all right, take a seat. It's a Friday night. So I get there at like 6 o'clock. And I'm sitting there, an hour goes by, and then they eventually like almost register me. And I think, like, for me anyway, that was the first time I'd been in a hospital since obviously my mum had passed. So like all of a sudden things got incredibly scary. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing in here? Like, and I'm all by myself, and it was overwhelming. And then another hour goes by, my neck feels like it's almost closing up. And I'm just crying, lying. And I'm like, I should probably tell someone I'm here. Anyway, Lisa Thompson then messages me. I honestly believe it was something like, can I post this on Instagram? And I was just like, Lisa, I can't do this right now. I'm in hospital, but I'm in A&E. And she was like, what? Like, who are you with? And I said, no one. She was in Quaichs at the time, so she wasn't about, but she was like, I'm sending Rhona. Rhona was the only one in Edinburgh at this time. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'm away to get taken. Don't stress. And she's like, no. So Rhona makes her way to the hospital. And then eventually I kind of get seen. I'm quite distressed at this point. Obviously, I'm in pain. I'm confused. I'm like, this sourdough's really taking a turn for the worst. And then Rhona messages me being like, I'm here. And I'm like, no, you're not. And she's sitting in the children's hospital. That actually describes her to a T. And then I'm like, no, you're not here. Anyway, she eventually gets there. And you know what? In that moment, she was just the exact person, like, you know what? I don't know if she was the exact person. We get into...
I'm like, I think I'd have done a good job, you know.
You would have been... You were the exact... But she definitely made it feel a little bit less scary. She's like, everything's going to be okay. Like, I was lying on a bed, obviously, in a bay in A&E. And Friday night A&E, there's...
It's chaos.
It's not the place to be, yeah.
Anyway, a long night ahead. Go get a scan on my throat, because there's something in my throat. Back to the bay, wait a long time. Then they're like, we need to get another scan of your chest. And that's when I'm like, why? Like, what's wrong with my chest? And they're like, we can see something. We've got your throat, but we can see something just at the bottom of your neck. So it's in your chest. And I was like, what? Like, the bread?
No, you're like, no, I can feel it here. It's not in my chest.
In my stomach, or
like,
it's weird there.
I am confused. And then that's when you're like the cogs obviously are starting to turn. I'm like, something's not right. And I knew something wasn't right. I was in a lot of pain. And anyway, scan back, and then it's quite late at night now, and he's like, you're going to have to stay in overnight. We can see a mass in your chest. So in my head, like, again, I'm pretty drugged up, and I'm just like, what is that? I didn't ask many questions. We'd kind of been told it could be, they didn't know what it was, but it could be like an abscess, which is essentially an infection, and it could be treated quite easily. It could be more serious, but we just don't know. But there is a mass there. So a mass didn't mean a huge amount to me at that time. But anyway, I get taken up, wheeled up in a bed to what was the high dependency
cardiothoracic.
That's it, cardiothoracic. Jeez. I didn't even realise kind of where I was at the time, but you go in, there's beeps everywhere, you're getting wired up, I'm on ECG, all the rest of it. Then Rhona's still with me, bless her, it's like 3 a.m, and she's like, so like what is it? And it's what like could there be antibiotics or whatever she could take? And they're like, oh, it's a tumour. Like that.
So they knew but hadn't actually said it.
Just hadn't said that word.
Yeah,
right,
they
okay.
said mass.
So to them a mass probably means that, but
and also once you're up in that ward, like they're dealing with serious stuff day in, day out. Like there's no mollycoddling you. Like it is very much like, oh, she's got a tumour, but you don't need emergency surgery. And in my head I'm like, surgery? Sorry, what? You won't need emergency surgery, you'll probably get after the weekend. And I'm like, what? Like,
I'm going to South Africa.
What are you on about? We've got 2 big tests coming up.
You were like, I was just drinking physical drink.
No, it honestly escalated that much. And well, I mean, and so obviously there's me and Rhona in this room. No one else really has an awareness. And we're not like, at that moment, I'm like, I need an adult. Like, I need an adult. Like they were like, and obviously it was the time they're like, have you got, like, what's your next of kin? I'm obviously in a very vulnerable situation, and Rhona's like, I'm her next of kin. I was like, God, that's my soul. Oh no, and they were like,
I
can
changed my name to that on the form pretty quickly.
Rachel got in the
I
next
got
stage,
involved and I was
"Spot
like,
my
take that name off. I love her dearly.
But yeah, she, and then that the next 3 days were pretty brutal. It was over the weekend. Not much happens in hospital over the weekends. But I was obviously had visitors every second of the day. But I swole up, shall we say, my my neck and my chest kind of swelled. There was
one like point where it went from like me and my mum had come in and like first thing the next morning and like she was swole, but she wasn't like, you weren't like, oh my goodness, and like you'd fallen asleep I think and mum was like, I'll leave you to it, and so she went away for a couple hours and I remember she just walked back in like a couple hours later and she just looked at me and went and I like hadn't really looked at
And
her
I'm like,
and suddenly her neck just like come out here and like you were really struggling to speak, you were like struggling to like
I completely lost my voice.
Yeah.
Which was really weird, but
which is lovely.
That sounds like a nightmare.
First time ever.
Genuinely my living nightmare.
No.
Can't think of anything worse.
and you know what? There was moments in that time I'm like, what if I've lost my voice forever? It's my identity. But it like that period of time when it was really scary in terms of how I looked, how I felt was actually short. And the reason I had that reaction was it wasn't the tumour that caused that reaction. Essentially, there had been a bleed, like a blood vessel had burst randomly, spontaneously, and bled into the tumour, which caused the
swelling.
reaction. So it wasn't the tumour that made me ill, if that makes any sense. I've been living with it for a long time. But it was the burst blood vessel that caused the reaction, which allowed us to discover it.
Because since all of this, they think you might have had it your whole life. Is that right?
Yeah. So they believe the medical term for it is a teratoma. So it's a type of tumour that is, I mean, it can be cancerous, but it was luckily benign, but it's very rare to have one in your chest. But yeah, they believe it. I've had it since potentially birth and it's just grown with me, but it's grown to a sizable thing, and it was actually, albeit it wasn't obviously causing me a whole lot of distress. I've been able to play rugby, do everything I've needed to, not known about it, but it was compressing one of my main veins back to my heart. God, I don't know much about the body,
wow.
but it would explain some of my breathing issues in running drills.
I googled this tumour because you told me to, and it can grow its own teeth, hair, pancreas.
Sorry,
No.
what?
That's true, right?
Yeah, so included in the teratoma, they can consist of like teeth, hair. It's
It's its own like thing. Yeah.
But mine didn't have any teeth. Did have some hair. Had pancreas in it. It had cartilage in it. Consisted.
Put that in your blinking knee when it was
I can transplant cartilage.
transplant.
You can just get some of that down there.
That's very sci-fi. This is like, sorry, what?
mad.
Mental. But yeah, the size of it. So in terms of full length, 27 centimetres. The top bit very thin, but like
27 centimetres
In
is
terms-
nearly like a ruler.
well, yeah, that's
That's
the
how we
full
all
length,
measure
but
things,
the
obviously, from school.
bulk of it was
A fist.
The size of a
bit
fist?
bigger than a fist, I would say. It was
Yeah.
a chunky old thing.
Sorry, what was your like running session impact that you had then, and your breathing if you had a
Do you want us to demonstrate?
She was a
foreign body
wheezy
with
girl.
the pancreas? I mean, in your chest.
And the thing, like I would like to think I've always been quite fit, and in fitness I'm up there. I'm pretty fit, but I sound.
You can hear her coming.
She's blowing.
I'm wheezing, but I feel fit, and that's why it was all very confusing.
She'd never not be there, but the sound of it always sounded so much worse than everyone. Like she made it sound much harder work than everyone else was, even in
And
skill
everyone
sessions.
she's such a drama queen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah,
But
yeah. How dare she be so loud? I mean, it's not that hard. Turns out she was just piggybacking.
I've been living with a tumour all my life.
Wow. This is wild. Do you like sometimes when you talk about it go, I can't believe this was me?
Yeah, I think now, like, it's so easy to talk about it now, in the sense I have had it removed and I'm healthy, and I just feel such a relief, actually, albeit all my life I've not known I've had it, but I now get to continue my life healthy without it, and I'm just like, oh, God, like I just feel,
No wheezing anymore.
We haven't fully put it to the running test yet. I'm just be breaking into the running. I'm still like out of breath, but I'm a little bit unfit. But I am.
How did it sound before?
Scotty, you better do a demo.
Like a
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
It was like you'd
that
done
fair?
something, yeah, really intense, but like we probably hadn't.
Like we
know
just
what I
been
mean?
like passing the ball around.
So everyone else comes in for a drink and you're chatting away, and then behind you, you've just got, and you're like, she's
This chick, okay. Like, what's happening to
It
her?
all makes sense.
There's actually one session I have like ingrained in my mind. Do you remember me and you did a running session on the Hive once?
Yeah.
At Murrayfield, just the two of us, and I remember just being like, she is unwell. Like, and you were we were running together, but and like I was kind of like, oh, it's all right, like, and just sounded, that was the worst. And I remember thinking like,
I know, but
that's not good.
I would always shout, be like, guys, I've got asthma. And they'd be like, shut up. No, you don't. Because it would just be such an Emma thing. Like, she has asthma. Of course she does.
Of course
like,
she does.
But crazy time.
Wow. And what a thing to be going through so shortly after you lost your mum without having that person by your side who knows your entire medical history and has been there for every step of the way. It's in times like, I think especially, I was chatting to my sister about this, like when she had her baby. She was like, it's literally that you have a few moments in your life where you're like, I just want my mom here. And I had so much pain in my heart for the fact that you went through this after you lost your mum. But then seeing the way that Dr. Rachel Malcolm and your next of kin Rhona and the rest of your friends have just rallied is the most heartwarming thing on earth.
It is hard one, because when you're that vulnerable, like when I was that ill, I was terrified to tell my brother, because the people like my mum would have been, obviously that's who I wanted there, but also it's so hard for someone that you love to see you in such a vulnerable state. And I think anyone that knows me, or like I've always kind of been the strong one, like always. I would always be the one. I like a bit of fixer. I don't like to be vulnerable. I'm fine. I'm all fine. And I was even like that, like with mum, do you know what I mean? Like I'm fine. I don't need any help. But in that moment, like you, I was, just incredibly vulnerable. But the way, I mean, Rachel and when Rachel and her mum walked in, Rachel's mum was essentially the mum I needed in that moment, and she was absolutely that. And of course, she can't replace my mum, but the love I felt from people was, God, it was almost overwhelming. Like it's scary to think that I never want to have to go through a moment like that, but I don't think I'll ever realise how much people care and want to look after you, and that's my friends, that's my teammates, that's their families, and almost in a weird way, I'm so I'm grateful that I can see that in all the people around me, how much love there is.
I was quite literally batting people away in those weeks that we were in hospital, because Wass was obviously quite unwell for the first week, and just people were just turning up, like, we want to be here, we want to help. And I was essentially
bodyguard.
I was like bodyguard at the door of the high dependency unit, like, no, like, she can't have everyone and anyone, and like, but we ended up with like a little core of us that kind of like rotated through, but like everyone under the sun was getting in contact, being like, how can we help? Like, what can we do? Can we come in? Can we get her anything? And like Wass probably didn't even at that time see, like, she's obviously had so many nice messages now, but like, especially when you first got ill, and like, it was a small circle of us that knew, but like every single person that knew was like, we'll be there in a heartbeat for her. And like, I think that was super special.
That must be so hard for you to be the right level of support and also the adult in the room in equal measure the whole time, and then also just quickly jetting out to South Africa for WX3 in the middle of it all.
Oh, like Wass was the one going through it also, like everything kind of always got put into perspective by that, I think, in terms of there were quite a few times late at night in the hostel that Rhona and I would like look at each other and be like, we need an adult here. Like we were having these conversations with, you know, doctors and whatever else on Emma's behalf about X, Y, and Z, and we were just like, God, like we still feel like kids, like, and like but I think like we had each other. Like I think I'm so grateful for like our friendship group. I think that's what this made me realise, because when we were out in South Africa, like it did feel like there was a point where we obviously didn't really know what was going on with us and like what it was going to be, and like, and we were very much like, well, I'd said to our coach like that if it is something, and they were like, the word cancer was getting thrown around left, right, and centre at one point, which we would just kind of bat aside. And like, there's just no way I would have gone to South Africa. So I think knowing, you know, that she was safe was the biggest thing for us out there. But ultimately, once we were there, it was just about doing her proud, because like we just knew how hard she'd worked to get there from the various injuries she'd had. But the fact that she couldn't be out there with us and representing herself, representing her mum, like we felt like we had that on our shoulders as well. So like we were just grateful to be there and be able to do that. But yeah, it was a kind of crazy time.
Crazy.
And I think, yeah, some of us are a wee bit traumatised by it. But
I actually believe other people are more traumatised than me, which again, like I obviously fast forward in the hospital and they're still figuring it out. They give me a needle biopsy and then they say, we actually haven't managed to get enough of the cells. We need to operate tonight. So it became like an emergency surgery where they said, we'll go through your neck. I'm straight on to Scaz, like, I'm going to have a matching scar. That little did she know I was going to get a bigger one.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Anyway, and then they said if we can't get enough through the neck, we have to go through your rib. Just another way to get to your chest. So, and I hadn't realised, obviously, I've been through knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries, so I understand the process of going in for a surgery. So that element, scary because it felt unknown, but I knew what happened in terms of going under anaesthetic, etc. But it's late at night, which is weird because obviously it was out of hours because it became emergency that we needed to get that biopsy. When I got out, I was pretty distressed. I was in a lot of pain. Again, my back pain kicked in. I realised I think they've done something to the ribs. Like what I'd realised is to get to where you are in your chest, they had to collapse a lung, which is a safe practice, but they have to collapse your lung to get to the chest to get the biopsy. I had a chest drain in my ribs. I was just incredibly uncomfortable, and obviously they'd given me a lot of painkillers. I was all sorts. So obviously when I come out, I don't remember a huge amount about it other than just being sore and needing my friends. I needed them, and that was probably, and I'm someone who'll get on with it by myself a lot, but at that moment I remember being like, where are they? Like I was screaming for them. I think
it was like, I actually think out of all of the process, like even like going in to actually get the tumour out, like that day was by far the hardest what we went through. Like as friends, we don't hug very much, me and Wass. And I will never forget like the hug I gave her when she went for that surgery. Like that day just went so quickly. Like everything was changing at like the quickest rate, and like it was just the two of us sat in there, and like we were just a bit like trying to make joke of it as we do everything, because that's like our way of dealing with things. Like I remember like hugging you, and I think Gabe had come in just as you were leaving, and like thank God she had, which was one of Emma's friends from university, like because I'd just been sat there, and like I remember hugging her, and I was just like, God, like
What's happening?
what is happening? Like it just had gone so quickly from like this joke about sourdough in her throat to my best friend in the world is in a lot of danger. And the night, oh my word. So like obviously we were sat there for a number of hours while she was under, and it obviously we kind of had been warned by the surgeon that they might have to do a very much more invasive surgery than what they originally said, which the longer she was gone, I kind of was expecting the worst. So we were waiting, and by this point Rhona had come in, so the Rhona and I were sat waiting for her to get back, and like the hours just kind of were passing, and we're like, well, where is she? Like, what's happened? And eventually I went into the high dependency unit because we kind of knew our way around by this point. So I went, we're not really supposed to stay in, but I went in, and probably shouldn't have, because she definitely wasn't ready to see anyone, and all I heard was just like wailing, and like I was like, oh, like that's such a shame, like I hope that person's okay. And like as I came round the corner, like it's me, I recognised that wail. And like you were just in like just the most amount of pain, and like I was just stood kind of, we were in this room full of very ill people, which like was hard enough in itself, but like to see your person sat there in that pain, like I was literally like, I'm someone that can usually act, and I just was stood like frozen, and the nurses were like, you need to leave, and I was like, of course. Like so I went out, and then eventually they came and they got me and Rhona, and once we came in, like Wass says, she will never ask me for help when she actually needs it, and I will always force it upon her. But she was like, first thing she said to me was, I need your mum. Where's Yvonne? And I was like, damn, I knew I'd forgot something.
Should have put Yvonne in my handbag.
But I was like, but she was just like desperate for us to be by her side, and it was actually it did get kind of funny.
I was as high as a kite,
she was
obviously.
off her face. So like at first she was obviously wailing, and that was very traumatic, and Rhona and I were a wee bit shell shocked, and we're just trying to help and do something. She had tubes coming out of everywhere, and like this chest drain, which was not a nice sight to see in terms of like what was bringing out of her, and like we were just like, what do we do? And like Wass was obviously in a lot of pain with her back, but she was also like, for some reason, so hot.
No, I was roasting. I remember it vividly.
It was so I was like to the nurses, I was like, she is so hot. Like she's complaining about really, really hot. Like, have you got fans? Have you got
This
anything?
is when the drama came in.
So I'm like, have you maybe got like some ice, like whatever? And then so we managed to get this fan, but we could not get it close enough. She's like, no, I need it on me, I need it on me. So Rhona was holding this fan, and like it was like, she was like this, like, because Wass is on this quite high up bed, so she's having to really hold it. So like occasionally Rhona would like dull her arm because she was in a fan, like, and she's obviously like pretty much unconscious, so she is lying like back on this chair, and then like she's complaining about her back, so we're having to like move the pillows around. And by this point it's getting slightly more on our vibe in terms of like
alive,
higher.
yeah.
She's alive. She's fighting. She's fighting. It's going to be what it is. So anytime we moved this fan away, we were screamed at. Like the fan had to be on at all times. So Rhona was fangirl. Then I'm like, right, like Emma, like by this point, because everything had changed at like ridiculous rates. Like she hadn't eaten anything for like over 24 hours, I think, by this point, because had to fast, had been told that it was going to be in the morning, then we're told, oh, it's actually not an emergency anymore. Then suddenly this new doctor came and was like, she needs to go right this second, just as I'm bringing in the M&S like snacks, because we thought the day was over. And I was like, oh.
I was like, none for me then.
So I'm like, right, Emma, like we need to try and get some like food. And so she's like, jelly. I'm like, right, okay, whatever. So like I'm feeding her jelly, and then the nurses are like to me, Rhona, like is like late,
11 at night or something,
and they're like, we need you out, and like Wass is like grabbing my arm, and she's like, no, like you cannot leave me. And like there is nothing harder in that moment, like seeing your best friend in that state and her quite literally like begging you to stay. That's so. In order to counteract these nurses
Like
that are
more
trying to
jelly. We need
I'm
more
like,
jelly.
She really needs some more sugar in. So I'm there like force feeding her jelly, and really slowly, so we can stay for as long as possible. But like, I think that night for me and Rhona was like, not to make it about us. Like
You
I
were more
remember
traumatised than
like
I was.
leaving the hospital that night, like having been through that day and like been through those emotions of like, what if? Although it wasn't even to get the tumour out, but to find out what it was and how invasive the biopsy and how they had to go about it and where it was, like around her heart and her lungs, and like the dangers that they'd expressed around it, like it was pretty scary. And I remember like Rhona and I just like walking out of the high dependency unit that night, and we were just like a mess. And then driving. Actually, I think that might have, there was one night where like we were like all over the place. I managed to lock my keys in my car. I couldn't even go home. So I think Rhona took me home, and I was looked after by Lee Lloyd that night, I think. But yeah, so like that was for me the toughest day. I think the wait was probably tougher for you in terms of finding out results and all those bits, which was yeah.
And that's the thing that is unbelievable in hindsight, is that you go through this incredibly invasive biopsy operation. That's just to figure out what we are like. We have not addressed the problem at all. We're just trying to not poke the bear and softly work around it and figure out what it is before there's a plan of attack. And then you have to go through a version of this at least again.
Yeah, well, eventually they didn't actually get the full results, but they were like, we've got kind of enough back, and essentially it's inconclusive. Which, genuinely, it sounds weird, is a good sign. Because if it was completely conclusive, it's more likely to be something quite either aggressive or, yeah, if we knew exactly what it was. So it not knowing exactly what it was almost was a good sign, but it was hard to process that at the time. I was kind of like, and I was pretty calm, I would say, throughout the whole process.
That's really impressive.
No, you know what? I am actually quite impressed with myself.
You were kind of the opinion like don't really want to know, which I think I was. She was getting. You were. There were times where like you were kind of like leave me alone, because I wanted to know everything. So like the doctors would come in and like Wass, they'd be like, "Are you happy with that?" And Wass would just be like, "Yep." And I'd be like, okay, no. So we are going to need to know what are the risks of this, what are the potentials of this, what is the worst case scenario. And she was like, I don't want to know the worst. And I was like,
don't tell me the worst case
against here.
Whereas I was, and
so she was literally, I would ask questions and I could just see you like tune out.
She
just didn't want to know.
She would be by
You think that's you guys as people, or because you were in the circumstance?
No,
and
I
you
do
went?
think that is.
Yeah, you guys as people.
I'm not like prepare for the worst.
Whereas I'm
Hope
like,
for the best.
everything's
Hope for
going to
the
be
best.
okay.
And she's like, everything's going to be fine.
You're like, I'm going to become a cardiothoracic surgeon in the process here. Just give me a moment.
Oh no, we knew some stuff at the end.
Yeah, we there was honestly, the amount of questions and doctors and nurses, and I honestly can't credit everyone enough that helped me during that time. And when they were trying to figure it out, they're like, so like, have you been ill? Has there been any signs like are you sleeping okay? Have you lost any weight? And I'm just like, no, like I'm fine. And I'm
But
like,
then that was also hard because
I did lose some weight, and I just kind of said that, and then Rachel would be like, Emma actually lost her mum a couple of months ago, and I'd be
so like it was like, because every day almost you would see, I would say up to maybe 4 different new members of staff, which is just because the NHS are so stretched, like you haven't got the luxury of necessarily seeing the same people every day. And like Emma says, like everyone that we dealt with was incredible, but it did mean that every day, more or less, that we were in hospital, someone would come in and ask for the story and like, what are the symptoms? And like every day they would ask, have you lost any weight? And like, obviously, unfortunately, when Emma's mum passed, like Emma did lose a lot of weight just through the stress of everything. And like, so like she would be like, yeah, and they'd be like, oh, that's interesting. And I'd be like, well, like, so then I had this whole spiel of like,
Just
basically, I don't
repeat.
know if you're aware, but this year, blah, blah, blah. And like, and it just went that for you, like, it was just a really traumatic time, I think, not only being in a hospital again, but every day having to almost relive that as well. So I tried to take it on a little
you were
bit.
great. She was so
But
great.
it was a bit of a roller coaster.
Dr. Malcolm's there with the clipboard. She's like, so the set of facts here are as follows. And you're just like, let me just bring you up to speed here.
Literally.
But no, sorry. And then they got to the point where they said, you are going to have to just chill out. We think we're going to have to remove this tumour to find out exactly what it is. We can't leave it there. We're going to have to remove it, and the only way to remove it, and to be fair to him, he was like, I'm going to speak to other surgeons, but from what we have kind of been presented with so far, the only way to remove this tumour safely is through a full sternotomy. And at the time, I am like, a what? And then they're like, we will crack open your rib cage, open up, take it out, close it. And it's a hugely practiced operation, but instantly that's when I'm like, have you spoke to my rugby coaches about this? Because
You're like, I do need my sternum, like it does a job for me.
But and obviously everything I was going through, it was all kind of through the NHS, and we are in such a fortunate position as rugby players that generally if my knee went or if my ankle or whatever, we have private health care in place. We get operations pretty promptly, scans pretty promptly, which and now more than ever I am so grateful for. But the nature of mine, I wasn't in an unsafe place, but I couldn't exert myself in a sense of, obviously couldn't play rugby. I could exercise lightly, but nothing that was going to really
burden your body. Yeah.
And you'll hopefully get the operation within a month or so. But until then, just chill out. And that was probably the only time I'd lost my head. And bless them, they are doing their best, and they've probably treated me better than, they were probably giving me the service that not everyone gets. They were so good. And I'm just like, what do you mean, chill out? Chill out. What? I'm a rugby player. I'm an athlete. That's my job. I can't just chill out. And he's like, do you know what you've just been through? And I'm like, it was just a really hard time. And I was just like, so what do I do? Just wait. And I obviously came around to the fact of,
you weren't going to South Africa in a couple of years.
I kind of think I thought I was still going to be playing rugby. It was, And then once that kind of time, obviously the girls went away to South Africa, and I spent a bit of time just myself, I suppose. But I then kind of was able to realise everything that I'd been through and what I was away to go through, which was like a huge operation. But closer and closer to the operation, I was just excited. I was like, I cannot wait to get this done, get it out and crack on. Excuse the pun.
Yeah. I mean, crack away. Let's get this thing with its pancreas out of my chest so I can get back onto the rehab train. Wow. And then so what was that period like? So you have the operation, and now you have to face becoming fully fit again, which, I mean, you're still busy with, because it turns out this isn't something that you just bounce back from in weeks. It's a month's project.
Yeah, I think, and this is the hard thing, obviously, after the whole biopsy saga, I then was told I couldn't do much. So essentially, I haven't been running or keeping up my fitness since that running session, that sourdough. So it became 5 months between my operation and when I'd last ran, which for athletes, if you're running or training every single day, that's a long period of time. My body's pretty unconditioned. The main concern, obviously, my chest, the bone needs to heal. It's wired together, so it is sturdy but it needs to heal. And they said from the operation that would be 6 months, kind of non-negotiable to take contact, but 3 months to start getting back to normal training life. So we're over the 3 month mark. We're back running slowly, starting to kind of lift in the gym again, just regain my strength. I feel like I'm reconditioning rather than almost rehabbing, because my chest, it's hard to explain. You can't really rehab a chest. It's just...
You don't switch on all the muscles around it and stuff, do you?
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm just rebuilding back.
You did say this week you were showing me your new pecs.
Yeah, I've got a wee bit of pecs again.
Cute.
No, they were... Why are you embarrassing me?
Oh, they looked... They're popping.
Well, I was pretty... I got pretty skinny. is what I'll say.
It was quite terrifying, actually.
And that was actually a period of time that I realised that I suppose it's really weird as an athlete, but as the most insecure I felt about my body was when I was at my slimmest, which I felt like I didn't want to wear the clothes that I loved. Like I just missed my muscly, strong, powerful, healthy body, and I just felt really quite insecure about being skinny and feeling. And I mean, I now know more than anyone how strong my body is internally. But yeah, you train so hard to be strong and powerful, and I hated how small I'd gotten, which is probably the opposite of what you think of maybe a female or your perception of body. But we are very much.
I think what was hard as well is how quickly it changed. Like, we were like, Wass went in on there was a Friday, and by that time the next week, like, because we were obviously there all day and night, like she would like take her clothes off and like I remember like Rhona and I would just like look at each other, because like within a week she'd gone from being this like athletic, like powerful woman to like just tiny. And like I think by the time we left the hospital the first time, like you were struggling to walk at one point because she was just so frail all of a sudden. And it like just happened so quickly. And I think for you, like not only were you insecure, but like I think how quickly you'd gone from being one thing to the other was also really difficult to deal with.
How amazing that you had that muscle mass for your body to have that in that phase.
I think in a lot to do with my recovery, and everyone's like, my surgeon is very much, he's like, I've not dealt with this, someone as young as you, and not someone who is an athlete, and definitely not someone who is going back to contact sport. So it's new for everyone, but how quickly I think I've bounced back from things is kind of, I think, a lot to do with kind of how strong, fit and healthy I was before.
To start with. So what's your goal at the moment? When are you back? Like, have you put something like circled a date on the diary?
Like unfortunately I'll miss the Six Nations. I do try most days to see if I
to persuade people.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe the last game. And they're like, no. And I'm like, maybe. But
I feel like that first game you play, you're going to have like 0 tackles, 0 carries, because I'm going to be like, walk out the way, don't touch her.
No.
Cutting you off.
This is going to be like NFL. You guys are just going to run cover tackles to keep people off her the whole time.
No, I'm honestly...
Me, Rhona and Bonds, just and Tom will just circling you.
I think, oh God, even when I think about me going back into like contact training, I'll be that guy. You know, that guy who just too keen for contact. The worst. I feel I'll be that because I'll just be so ready for it.
Yes.
And that's
she usually is every time she comes back from injury. So I hate to think what this is going to be like.
And I currently don't have, but I know it will be something, is the fear around something hitting my chest. Right now, if you were to say, could I hit your chest, I'd be like it makes me feel unwell thinking about it. So I know I have a bit of time to go, but I feel confident that like I want it, quite honestly, more than ever I've ever wanted it before. And it's not even for me, I think what I find hard is it's not about just coming back and playing and putting the shirt back on again. It's like I will be back and I will be better than I ever was before, because I have so much to play for.
And the girls have so much to play for. Talk about Scotland's aims for the Women's Six Nations. Rachel Malcolm, here we go.
Gosh, it's so weird actually. Someone asked me the other week, they were like, what date's your first game? And I was like, and they were like, who are you playing against? I was like, because you're just like so, I don't know if you feel like
I
this,
kept
like,
saying beginning of March, and apparently it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Like so like focused on club stuff until like club stuff finishes, then you like switched. But like I think because we go into camp next week, it's starting to tick. But yeah, like it's a funny one. World Cup years are weird because everyone's like, the peaking is to come, but equally like it is important from like both like an individual point of view, like everyone wants to perform to put their hand up for the World Cup, but also we need to start building and we need to start performing as a team. And I think we like WXV this year probably wasn't our best, like in terms of performances, wasn't far off, but definitely wasn't close to our best. So I think that's like a little like bugbear for me. Like I'm ready to go and right some wrongs there. So like I think we definitely have that, and I think like ultimately we need to keep winning games. Like the big part of going into World Cup, and particularly our last World Cup, like we weren't winning games. So like I think learning how to win and how to manage that pressure is massive. So yeah, we are going into this Six Nations with the ambitions of competing and doing as best we can.
Do you put a target on it in terms of like a position or a points or a...
Internally, yeah, probably.
Yeah,
like obviously we've not met up yet. Like we haven't been together as a group.
So you've got one.
I know exactly. We're coming top. I mean,
DMR Rachel Malcolm has many thoughts. She's ready.
No,
But you're 3 games at home as well. That always helps.
Like so we play. Yeah, we're. Don't ask me the order, but I know we play Wales, Ireland, and Italy at home. You can tell me.
Wales at home at the Hive, France away and La Rochelle. Italy at the Hive, England, Scotland at Mattioli Woods, Welford Road, and then Ireland at home at the Hive.
We love finishing with Ireland. So yeah, like I think, like I say, we've not met up as a group, so like we haven't had the opportunity to sit down and say like what are we wanting to achieve, both in terms of targets, where we want to finish. We do generally. I think this year we probably will put a target on it because we want to learn to live with that pressure. Like I think that's important for us because. Like we went for a phase, I think, in Scotland where like we were like, oh, we won again. Oh, we won again. And it was like this kind of high and like we didn't really, whereas then we had this pressure on us and there was like probably a phase we went through where we didn't deal with that pressure. So like that's definitely been a bit of a like roller coaster for us. So I think, yeah, like, but also we also have quite a new squad. We've got some new players coming through, some young players coming through the Celtic Challenge and from other avenues. So it's going to be like a pretty steep learning curve and a steep kind of togetherness curve as well over the next couple of weeks to bring that squad together and get us firing for our first game.
The last time Scotland fans saw you play, you didn't score a win. You lost to Australia at the end of WXV2. The scoreline doesn't look like it, 31-22, but that was a close game in Cape Town, and you got to slap the arm strapping that said Wass onto the qualified sign that you guys took a picture
I got in trouble
at
for
the
that.
end. You got what?
I got in trouble for that.
You got in trouble for it?
Yeah, because I always have, like, since Wass has been out, like, her name on my armband, and I was just in, like, a bad mood anyway. We'd lost the game, and I was like, I'd taken it off, and then I was like, oh, well, she's coming to the World Cup. So I like put it on the sign, and then I think someone from, I don't know, you guys in the background don't know who the kind of people, they came up and they're like, could you just take that off for the official picture? And I was like, no. I was like, yeah,
Because
sure.
your tiny bit of strapping was really
literally a tiny little thing in front of me. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Don't deface
But at
the
this point,
signage, Rachel.
So, but no, Wass was on the sign.
Was that the interview you gave as well at the end?
I
was,
yeah.
Because I was watching that. I think I texted you,
You
didn't I?
messaged
Being
me,
like,
yeah.
oh God.
Yeah.
I just super emotional. Like, I was super proud, obviously, watching on, but like, and I was just incredibly proud of all them. And then, it was just a lot.
Oh. I love that Cape Town is a special place for you guys, that you got your WXV to win there, and then the next year you got to honour Wass with a little strapping slap on the side.
Sweaty bit of strapping.
Yeah. And that brings us nicely onto our new segment, Cabin Chat, brought to you in partnership with our good friends at British Airways, because they believe that everywhere we go makes us everything we are, which now obviously we subscribe to. The loveliest thing happened on my recent visit to Cape Town. I came back, and I think I still mentioned on the Mackenzie Carson episode that I just landed that morning, and it was the day of my birthday. And I mentioned it, after you board and the cabin crew welcomes you, sometimes you have a little chat. They go, are you going home? Did you just arrive? And I said, yeah, I'm going home. And it's my birthday when I wake up tomorrow morning, thinking like there's like so many people on this flight, no one's going to remember this, ha. Take loads of selfies with myself, like traveling home, and then go to sleep. The next thing I wake up the next morning, Mitchum, who was the guy that I was chatting to the night before, part of the cabin crew, says, "Happy birthday," and hands me a gift and a handwritten note. I genuinely...
That's very cute.
I had a little cry. It was so nice.
Read it out.
It said, "Happy birthday, Elma. Have a lovely birthday from your crew on BA 54 from Mitchum, Faye, Sarah and Rosie."
That's very cute.
Nice touch.
I'm really glad you told that story because when you first said it, I thought you'd like boarded the plane and gone like, "It's my birthday."
Which wouldn't be entirely off-brand for me to
Exactly.
do. But I didn't do that. I only said it to one person, which I was quite proud of.
Yeah, that's good.
And I wasn't flying with Richard, so I felt like I did need to tell one other person to at least, like, you know, announce it a little bit.
How was your trip to South Africa? You haven't really
Oh.
told us much about it.
So nice. I feel like the travel hack for Cape Town is to go after all of the South Africans have gone back to work and school. So January, February is when the weather is prime, but the beaches aren't so busy and the golf courses are nice and free. So we played golf.
How hot's
and-
hot?
I was going to say, what is prime for
Well,
South African?
anything between 28 and 33 degrees.
See, October was prime for us. Not too hot. It's like 20
It's like
degrees.
20 degrees.
And we still were doing heat.
And
heat
Oh my God, it's
strategies.
so hot in here.
And the South Africans were
Cooling
wearing
towels at every session.
the South Africans
know
were
that
wearing
actually
puffer
happened.
jackets. What did you get up to when you were there?
Obviously,
We did all the kind of main.
Yeah. Table Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That was lush, actually.
Was
Very
really
pretty.
nice. The Penguins, Boulder Beach.
Yeah.
Is that it?
But you guys got like a long weekend, didn't you? Which
So this
never
is-
ever
yeah.
happens. It
Usually,
was a
like, you
joke.
finish your last game of a tournament and you are
Straight on the flight.
straight on the flight, or like 6 a.m. flight the next day.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, World Rugby booked our flight 4 days.
So our last game was on the Friday. I'm not really sure why the last game was on the Friday,
Yeah.
but then our flight wasn't until the Monday. So we have a Saturday, Sunday with no rugby.
Friday night,
It's
Saturday night,
unheard
Sunday
of.
night.
So many off
Unheard of.
days.
And we just
3 nights.
happened to win WXV2. So
And you happen
was
to be
2
near
years
a
ago, we didn't win this
winery.
year.
yeah, 2023. But it was a good time. It was a really good
very
time.
loose.
There was that video of Rhona Lloyd that went viral for Cape Town Sevens where the hotel staff were breaking it down, dancing and singing and welcoming
the
you guys
hotel
in.
staff.
And then she got into the dance-off. Did you guys have dance-offs this time around?
Every single time there was a birthday,
Oh,
so there was a couple of things. Every time there was a birthday, we'd be sat at dinner or sat at lunch, and the whole staff from the hotel would come in and just like
Make
break
fuss.
into the most beautiful song and dance, and we were all just like mesmerised. We were like, everyone is so talented. But then we were also there for the World Cup final, and the staff in the hotel just like obviously
oh, I have goosebumps thinking about it.
No,
Like,
it was
it was just so
incredible.
special to see, because like we obviously were like neutral, like unfortunately Scotland didn't make it to the World Cup final. So we were just there pretty neutral, obviously in South Africa, so why not support South Africa? And the staff and like everyone in the hotel was just dancing and singing the entire night, and it was just so special. Yeah, it was cool.
Oh.
Very
cool.
very cool country.
I know you've played against South Africa.
I've still never been. I've never been to South Africa.
Not even on the Seven circuit.
Not on the Cape Town wasn't a leg while I was playing sevens, or I was injured maybe the first time it was out. We've never played there with 15s. Well, we might have done, but not in my time. Yeah, never been. How mad's that? Can you sort me out? Because it is somewhere I'd like to go.
I was going to say we might have to really address this problem.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really loved on the flight home, just to get back to one of my favourite birthday memories, is the announcement that came over the loudspeaker. No one said happy birthday to me on the loudspeaker, but the public announcement just as we came into land was a woman pilot as well. You know when that happens and you're just like, yes, I love that.
Yeah,
Just seeing the change happen
no, very cool.
in front of my eyes. Okay, so South Africa is on our travel list. British Airways will take care of you over a lifetime of journeys. Book your next flight at britishairways.com. Now, we do need to talk Loughborough. Last time we had you on the show, Emma Wassell, you told us about Scaz's leather trousers. And they did actually make an appearance here on the set.
Did they?
I wore them.
How good do they fit?
So good.
It's perfect fit.
The bum. She does.
Why did I do that?
Using
I'm sorry
both of
about
her hands and gesturing for the audio listener.
It was the day that I came dressed as Elma after I'd lost the bet I didn't know I'd done when South Africa beat England in the autumn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
And-
put them on.
And we have been commending her whenever she's been serving. We also do have the gifts that you gave us. Have you spotted all the Scottish? We holding all of our scrunchies.
And your Quaichs
Is the what?
Quaichs.
The Quaichs.
For your whiskey, you like
for
whiskey.
the Wheezy
friendship cup.
You drink whiskey out of that?
It's like an old school thing. So like, Emily, you're supposed to be Scottish.
You haven't taught me this bit.
So a Quaich is a sign of friendship. So in theory, you would fill it with whiskey and share it with friends.
I've got one of those from a game.
Well,
Years
you
gone
should
by.
be sharing your whiskey
Did you
with
get
your
player of the
friends.
match?
It's not a scrunchy tray.
Or
I
captain,
think so.
maybe.
Yeah, I think it might have been a captain.
Or maybe
one.
I just slipped you a wee Quaich. So yeah, we tend to give them like as a sign of friendship between unions.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's Buddy the Elf behind you as well.
Oh,
That's one of our best.
Iconic
one of our
Scaz and
best.
Wass
Good
You took that picture you
I
said
did
earlier,
take
didn't
that
you?
picture, yeah.
friendship moment.
We are.
When did you guys dress up like?
Is it
Christmas
last
social,
Christmas?
surely.
As in
Christmas
like
parties.
23.
Yeah.
It was quite a surprising moment for both of us, actually, how we really bought into that.
No, sorry. The whole surprise was that you bought into that.
Why is that a surprise? I'm
You
so
do
open
love
for
a fancy
anything.
dress.
I love a fancy dress. I was trimming that wig and everything.
Yeah, she commits really hard. The fact that you look ridiculous like that is quite surprising.
No, I know. I
And
did
you
just.
know what? She wasn't happy about it either.
No, like it was fine. 'Cause I do like the idea of committing to fancy dress.
Me too. Love it.
You were terrible. I like the idea of committing, but I obviously the fit wasn't.
We were going out in Loughborough.
I know you're right. So it was a fun time. It was a fun time.
Speaking of fun times, Loughborough beating Saracens for
A
the
fun
first time
time.
ever. Is this
Fun time.
now why you've announced your departure? You're like, completed it, mate. I started this club from the bottom. I managed to like be here when we beat Saracens for the first time. Job done.
Yeah, that's
Drops
yeah,
mic.
that was it. That was the night I made the decision. No, but that was a super, probably out there like one of my highlights of being at Loughborough. I've been on the other end of many a loss to Saracens in my 8 years, so to get that one, and it was also my first game back after a wee injury, so it was nice to get to be on the pitch with the girls, and I think, yeah, we definitely earned it. We've worked bloody hard this year. Not always got the results to back up the fruits of labour. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a tough slog, but I think the way that we're playing at the minute, it's a super exciting place to be.
Can you tell us where you're going?
No. No,
I'm just Elma.
I'm sorry.
No, not right now. But I think time will tell. I guess. I just knew that this is my time to move on. I've been in Loughborough for my entire adult life, which is longer than I'd
is
like to admit.
crazy.
Yeah, so like I moved to Loughborough when I was 18 for
Wow.
university, as an aspiring hockey player. Played 7 seasons of hockey, and a little 1 year out playing for Lichfield, and then back for 8 years of rugby. So I've played 15 seasons in purple, and I think, like, yeah, it's time to pass on the baton and let these guys. And I'm super excited about where we're at. Like, I think, like, there's been times like, and these guys have been there. Like, it's not always been easy. Like, we've had some tough times at Loughborough, and like, there's been times I've probably wanted to leave before. But I'm a big believer in leaving somewhere in a better place than where you get it. And I mean, people could say that I was there from the day one, so like it was always going to be better. But there was definitely some times where I definitely, wasn't in a happy place, both myself and in the group. And I think, but I was really passionate about not jumping off the ship. And I think why I feel so content to leave right now is just because I'm so optimistic about where the programme's at. And I think, we have such exciting young players coming through and leaders coming through, and I think I want to see them flourish and see the programme flourish, and I think it's my time to step aside and see that happen.
Wow, that's big. And that's also like, that's such a real labour. Like, I mean, the average job, people stay in jobs like 3 to 5 years. You've more than done, like the real big shift there. And as one of the OGs, I think your legacy will live on at that club for so very long.
Hopefully it's a big motivation for us as well for Friday night. like to send out? What are you? Number 6?
It actually isn't because I did wear number 6 that day, but I think I was like
Alphabetically as well.
alphabetically 6.
Yeah, but fundamentally like part of the very first ever Loughborough team.
Yeah. The last man standing from that game, I believe.
There we are.
Wow, it is the end of an era.
Yeah, massive end of an era. So we've got obviously a Friday night game, hopefully send her off well, and then an end of season on Saturday to really send her off well.
And then into camp on Monday. Sorry, Brian.
Oh yeah. That's not our problem anymore.
Whatever's left of her will turn up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So, Gloucester-Hartpury has clinched the top spot on the table for the 3rd year running, and we are so proud of our Mo, securing a home semi-final against Bristol on Sunday, the 2nd of March, West Country Derby at Queensholm. And we have a little message from the Blue Tit herself.
Do we?
Hello, all you beautiful blue tits out there. Firstly, cannot wait for the home semi against Bristol. Obviously, renamed Queensholm for the occasion, which we absolutely love. And we are so excited to be offering you GSR fans the chance to sit together in the stands. There's 150 tickets available. You'll get to sit by Elma and the crew, and cause as much noise as you can for us. And I promise I will be first across and see you guys before anyone else, as long as my nephews and niece aren't in the crowd, because obviously they trump everything. But yeah, cannot wait to see you, cannot wait to hear the noise. Get on down.
Are you going to be in amongst it?
I'm so going. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this. So, Gloucester-Hartpury has kindly said they'll reserve 150 seats for me and the rest of the Blue Tits gang. So you don't need to have Blue Tits in order to turn up, obviously. But the Circus semi-final against Bristol, it would be lovely to have you along. You'll get 10% off if you use the code GSR10 at checkout. The link is in our bio and in the episode description. Don't let me sit there on my own, all right? I'm going to be cold. Thank you very much.
Have you got a big red puffer coat?
I will have to make sure that I get one now that you've put it out there. Thank you, Emily Scarrett.
Because people will need to know where you are.
I mean, how would
people
they
hold
ever?
flags on tours?
Yeah.
You'll just be the red
I'm
beacon.
so quiet. I'll definitely go.
So true, actually.
Like no one will see or hear me arrive at all. It's not like I don't go around telling people it's my birthday left, right, and centre. So second place seals a home semi-final for either Saracens or Harlequins, all of which will be decided this Friday night in the final round of the PWR. Who's it going to be? Saris. Quins.
I think Saracens, because they play Sale, don't they, this weekend? Albeit Sale are having a decent end to the season. Harlequins play Gloucester, and I think Gloucester are trying to do this at the end of their season, as opposed to they're not rotating heavy, as far as I'm aware, to just get through. So I think they're going to go after it.
Emma?
Oh God, I don't.
Sarah and Sarah Bonner, who's going to kick off.
Yeah, like one of your best friends.
Answers correctly.
Backing Quins.
Nice.
Yeah. Best friend comes first. Sarah Bonner.
Nice.
Harlequins.
This is not how you build a punditry career, by the way.
No, it's not.
is it
but
not?
I know.
And
You
I-
don't
I've
understand how our friendship group
This
is.
is not
It's
her,
built on
interview.
Tumour, so it's pretty, we back each other no matter what.
Like I'm off duty. Give me a
Okay.
break.
Scaz, this is your opportunity to invite some of our friends along for another opportunity to hang out with us. After I go hang out with the Blue Tits in Gloucester, there is also an opportunity at the final, right?
There is a massive opportunity at the final, Elma. We are doing a live show with the Power Pod in collab before the game. Get down there, come and watch us, have some fun, and then watch the game.
KDM,
PWR final.
Meg Jones,
Nick Heath, Philippa Tuttiette, me, you, Bosch.
Nice.
and Shira might come as well.
Shira will probably be
She's
there.
just standing there in the corner with her back to us the entire show long. So weird. I mean, she's like an Irish girl and she's wearing the Scottish shirt, but it's really nice
I
of her.
love her little Jimmy hat.
Yeah, it's strange that she doesn't have arms today. We're joking. There's a mannequin on set with a shirt on, and this is not funny when you listen to it. Quickfire, Men's Six Nations, England, Scotland this weekend. Dun, dun, dun.
I mean,
Scotland for the win, eh?
England for the win, isn't it? So fun. This is gonna be part of our end of season. So
Watching the Broses.
on Saturday we'll have our end of season, have a little meal, and then we'll go on and enjoy some drinks. And during which the England
I love how
Scotland
you've made that sound
Calcutta
so
civilized.
civilized. Just
Civilised.
have a little meal and
Couple of drinks.
Yeah.
It's not going to be feral at all.
No, I was just trying to not give too much additional information
No,
away.
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
And we'll be obviously watching it whilst sipping on something.
And then when
Champagne and caviar.
as we do the last, and then when you do watch the Calcutta Cup with your favourite Scottish friends, does your Scottish heritage factor into how much you enjoy the match at all? England Rose.
It does when it's at Murrayfield because I really enjoy the anthem.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Since
at
it's-
the Allianz Stadium, so it will be less so and back in the boys in white all the way.
The Broses.
The Broses.
Did you hear that we call them that now?
I like it though.
Do you approve?
I do approve. That's
okay,
cool.
thank you. We'll tell them that you said so. Loughborough Trailfinders, let's go.
Let's go.
The big farewell
I know.
for Rachel Malcolm.
Not about me.
It's about you.
No.
She always does rousing pre-game, half-time, sometimes during game talks.
Talks.
Would you use that word?
What? Rousing?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said something else.
Something else. Yeah.
Forget. I was like,
That is definitely not the
I was
intention.
like,
show Emma Wassell.
Emily, I don't think
Okay.
that's what she's trying to do. Sorry, misheard.
Rousing's the right word.
You
right?
are
No,
correct.
but you all know what I
listens
thought I
to the
heard.
show.
Did you switch off again for a split second?
You know, go on, carry on.
Scotty always gives rousing pre-game, half-time, and often in-game talks. So I'm curious. Are you going to pass it on to Daisy? Are you going to give it
Oh,
some
I don't
well of
know.
yourself?
Don't know. Just these things just
She doesn't
happen.
plan. She just belts.
No, but the other week I almost passed out. Remember it?
Sometimes she just fill up and she's getting she winds herself up. You can see it happening, fills
Nathan
up.
turned to me at half time with Bristol and he went, Scotty, I can't remember what he said,
Did
but he
he?
just
Give it some welly.
give it some, and I just went. I was in the middle of the circle. I saw red, I saw black, I saw every colour.
Starts spitting her out.
And I'm just going, and I just lost it. And then
Is it good, though?
everyone's bouncing off the walls. We run out, and I turned to Scaz and I was like, I think I'm gonna pass out. And then
It was that good.
Do you know that
I don't know
have
if it was good. I don't know what the heck came out. I totally blacked out, but sometimes it does get a bit too far.
any thoughts for us? Any pep talks as we round out the season?
For the podcast itself,
Well, I don't know. Or for me personally, I don't know.
We're in her work.
Take your pick.
I think this has been an exceptional season. I think you guys have you've worked so hard to get what you've achieved, but I think there's so much more in you. And I think today you've just got to go out there, you've got to give it everything you've got, play for each other, and just never give up.
I actually have a small point to add.
I actually want that bit also taken out exactly.
No.
No, just said it.
I was chatting with my Scotland team manager, our Scotland team manager.
The best woman in the world.
She is an incredible woman. Again, everything I've been through, when I was in hospital, she came in every morning at exactly the same time, sleeping, awake, whatever, took all my washing, took it home, took it back the next day, exactly
Every
the same
day.
time, every single day.
And she would bring me a Deliveroo some nights with
No,
my dinner.
I cannot. She goes
And I was in
over and
hospital.
above. And yeah, her name is Ellen Dixon, and she is a big fan of the pod. She said, when I said I'm going on Good Scaz Rugby, she's like, oh, that is my favourite podcast. And I was like, oh, Ellen, I'll give you a shout out. Anyway, then she proceeds to say, she was like, I don't know what it is about it. I feel like on other podcasts or so easy to talk about what women's rugby doesn't have, but on that podcast they just tell us exactly what women's rugby does have. And she was just like, it's just my favourite thing to watch.
Isn't that so cute?
She is the best.
We
That's like the
celebrate
nicest
what
thing.
we've got in women's rugby here, and yeah, she's a big fan, and she is our god. She is the best woman ever.
She is what holds Scotland women together.
I was going to say, and we have Ellen Dixon. How
You should
lucky
have her
are
on the
we?
pod.
Oh, that could be
She
fun.
could tell you some
I
stories.
was going to say,
Oh.
we might have to put her in witness protection. Mask the voice and the face and just get her to unpack all of her little stories. Wow, that's amazing. That's love made visible in the most practical way.
That is her love
Wow.
language,
Yes.
almost
Acts of service.
No, not even in a rugby context though. Rhona
She's-
Lloyd will get miss her like she'll be trying to like
Miss
get
her
out
4
of
flights.
prison. No, just kidding. She'll be like,
She'll get you out.
She'll like Rhona phones Ellen. Like something in her life goes wrong.
Oh
which
my
happens
God.
to
Oh,
Rhona
wow.
more often than not.
Yeah, bless her.
Like a flight gets cancelled and she's stuck on the other side of the world. Like Rhona phones Ellen. She's like, what should I do? And like she is the person. If someone came for me, Ellen is who I'd call.
Wow, that's
Do you remember the
amazing.
time we were in an airport and our flight got cancelled, and within 3 minutes she goes, we get a message in the group, I found us a plane, moved to gate 2. And
we were like,
40 plus of us. She'd managed in the space of 2 minutes of this flight getting cancelled to get 42 of us on a new flight.
She's a walking, talking life hack.
Yeah.
Oh my
Selfless.
goodness.
Yeah.
I would like an Ellen in my life.
You need
it.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in and being so generous. I didn't want to re-traumatize anyone, but both of you have just been so generous in talking about a period that just sounds unbelievable. I'm really glad the Tumour didn't have teeth, by the way. Like,
Look, if you
That's
want a
the
wee
key
picture
takeaway.
of the
Yes.
tumour, like I've got it. So
you're like Scaz.
Drop Waz a DM.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone who wants to see.
Yeah, and then
That's
her
maybe not
Instagram
how I want
account
my
gets
DMs.
closed down by Instagram because they're like, oh.
That would get you reported.
The countdown is on until we see you back in a Scotland shirt, and we cannot wait.
Yes.
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 thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Hopefully, you shall see me back. It'll be a big day for all. I don't want to put any pressure on it, but I will be back.
You will be back.
She will be back.
Yeah. Speaking it into existence. We can't wait. Thank you, Scazzy.
Always.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
We've been the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby in partnership with Vodafone. The Good, the Scaz and the Rugby is a folding pocket production produced by
Shira Gilgala.